I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are Velocities of Music, VIMTV. Today, for episode 210, woo! Women, 2010, Public Strain. This is an album that has just it's been reviewed over and over again over the past couple months. And we feel like we anything that's getting that much hype, we have to look at and go, hey, what do we think? And, pretty much it's getting a lot of really good reviews. Check out the album artwork down there if you're at our website, and if not, go to our website at www.velocitiesmusic.com because this is the best album artwork ever. It literally defines good album artwork, in my opinion.
And fitting well with the sound.
Right.
Yes.
And Tom, how would you describe women's sound? Because Public Strain, this shit is unique, man.
Yeah, it really is, and maybe particular aspects have been done before, but the way that women bring them all together, which first off, I got to comment on the band name, Women. We reviewed an album by a band called Girls. So they got girls, women. I want a band called Middle-Aged Females, and then like older ladies. I want that progression to happen. Yeah, there you go. But I'm sorry, I had to make that really dumb non sequitur comment. But the sound here is lo-fi. There's some noisiness to it, but it's very controlled, which is what's cool about it.
It's standing on the shoulders of a lot of post-punk.
Yes.
And Anthony Fantano, another music reviewer out there that we like a lot, he called it post-wave, which kind of makes sense.
That's interesting, yeah.
And I like that. I think that these guys have a lot, we've mentioned Joy Division, you've mentioned a couple artists that I'm sure you will mention.
And like you have written down Walkman. I think that's a good contemporary.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to look on past influences, songs like Heat Distraction, the more up-tempo, less noisy, more rockin' tracks, I got a lot of Television.
Yeah.
If you ever listen to Television, old punk band from the late 70s, I mean, you get a lot of that just in the way the guitars are working and even the bass, a lot of that. I also got a lot of Syd Barrett, the original founding songwriter, singer of Pink Floyd. He had a couple solo albums come out after he left Pink Floyd, and it reminds me a lot of the mood and the ambience and
just general weirdness.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Really,
I think reminds me a lot of Syd Barrett.
And this album, I think the first time you listen to it, it's a little off-putting at first because the vocals are kind of part and parcel with other acts in the past and current of this style, to where it's just kind of drony, not the best vocal quality, but still I think they're good enough to carry the music. I'll get into more of that later, but if you can embrace the sound enough to really give this album a good couple of shots, I really feel like this is a strong album. I mean, it's albumized in a way, it has a nice opening, and there's a great closer, and it stays fluid throughout. But one thing that I really like that Women does on this album is that they have a whole lot of songs that are kind of almost Interpol's first album, Turn on the Bright Lights, where the guitars are trading off with each other and doing some really cool rhythms. Tom, you mentioned that track 2, Heat Distraction, is in 13/8 time, which not a lot of bands do that. But they pair these songs with almost more like atmospheric ballads. And that's something that I really, really appreciate. And it's not like it's just a different form of song by the same band. It's not like they're trying to put out an album full of different styles. It's literally the same style, just different types of songs. And I really like how that helps the album flow. They're really good about not grouping similar sounding songs together. They space them off so that it becomes a fluid listen straight through. And I like that. But what'd you think?
I liked it. I thought that... obviously I think there were some standout tracks, mostly just because there are some tracks that work better as actual song compositions, and then you had like the more moody Bells and China Steps in the middle of the album, and even Untogether in a little bit kind of evolves back into the more song structure, or structured song rather, than the ones before it, the two before it, but I think it works. It works because it makes it more of an album, as you were saying. It's not just a collection of songs. It makes the album flow very well. But at the same time, it does create some obvious standouts and some obvious just supportive songs.
Right. Now something that they do in some of these songs that I really like is the song will start off a certain way, and I'll pick on one of them. Track 6, China Steps, starts off this really just aggressive and just a lot of clanging, and then the song never really has a direct pivoting point, but you know, it's a longer song, and halfway through it shifts into this, it like downshifts into this more of a groove. It's still the same song, and not really a lot of structural things have changed about the song, but it's more just how they're playing the song, the style that they're using shifts just ever so slightly, and the whole mood changes. And what this album is all about is preserving mood and atmosphere, and it's beautiful, and they have so much control.
In a way, that song Evolution is very similar, and I'm not saying they're ripping them off at all, but very similar to what Panda Bear does on Person Pitch. And there's that same kind of lo-fi sound there.
And that production.
Yes.
And that's another thing I wanted to point out, I'm sure you noticed, is this is part and parcel with a lot of bands anywhere around this style. I noticed that Deer Hunter did this.
Yeah.
But you know, they're turning the vocals down in the mix. They're letting the vocals kind of wash out, and there's a lot of reverb on them, and they're washing out with the guitars. And it's nice because it brings the focus on the atmosphere, and it brings the focus onto the guitar lines, which is something that in music you're seeing covered up nowadays.
Yeah.
It's something that, you know, the vocals are pushed to the forefront, and the beats are just pushed to the forefront, and everything else just kind of drowns out. Well, this is the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that. Now, my biggest beef with Public Strain is the vocals. And it's not necessarily that they're bad, it's just that I feel like a very strong album will have a definitive vocal presence. And I'm not talking about the volume or production, I'm talking the voice itself.
Attitude.
It's like, you know, you can't, and I'm not saying this guy's bad, but you know, like, sometimes it just doesn't necessarily work perfectly with the music. My example is quarterbacks, football. Some quarterbacks, just the way they are, don't mess with some offenses. It's football season. I'm into this right now. You know, Tim Tebow is going to struggle in the NFL because he throws really weird. A lot of people like Tim Tebow. This is another debate. And that's fine. But my point is that you know, sometimes even good singers are going to struggle with a certain band's sound. And I feel like that's what happens here. If there's anything holding this album back, it's the fact that the vocalist doesn't own it. He doesn't just make it his own and make the vocals a really intriguing part of the music. So much weight seems to be shifted towards the music itself.
And what that does is it makes it seem less intentional that it's down in the mix and more like they're trying to cover up their own flaw.
Absolutely. But other than that, really, I think this is just a fantastic release. I think it's very, very good. And well, my favorite tracks, Tom, Heat Distraction, China Steps, and then track 9, Locust Valley.
I'm only going to change one of those. I'm going to also go Heat Distraction and Locust Valley, track 9, but then I'm going to go with Penal Colony, track 4. I thought that was a very good, slower track.
This is definitely an album you should check out if you're into more experimental and even kind of noisy music. Definitely look into Public Strain by Women. It's a good one, and plus, sweet album artwork. But what do you guys think? Leave us a comment. Do you agree with us? Do you see our points? Do you think that this is the best album ever? Do you think it's shitty? Let us know at www.velocitiesmusic.com or at our YouTube channel, and leave us a comment. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.